I have always been fascinated about two different facets in my life. Why am I here and what happens after I go? And I think that applies to all of us. And so we started the YouTube channel Near Death Network. Remarkable stories about remarkable individuals who have clinically died, transitioned, and come back to tell us their stories.
And when I get into the operating room, when they went to give me the anesthesia, I had some kind of a horrible reaction, and it stopped my heart. And I had never had surgery before. I don't think I'd ever spent really any time in a hospital. I had no idea what to expect. And then once my heart stopped, I had this extraordinary experience that we now call a near-death experience. And what was so interesting is that I was only officially dead for 7 minutes.
And at that point in time, there was a 12-foot angel standing there. And I felt very much drawn into her energy. So being raised Catholic, I was like, oh, I want to see those feather wings, because first of all, she was much more massive than I ever imagined an angel would be. But who doesn't want to see these big feather wings? So
Sure.
as I went to look for them, what I actually saw is that they were made of light, and they were very much like the aurora borealis, where they would move and they would span almost what seemed to be eternity. I truly could not see the end of them, where they tapered off. And I remember the immense love that I felt from her. Again, like I almost felt like a newborn baby, in the sense, like when you hold that newborn baby, you look at it and you think, you're perfect. You know, that was the level of love that I was feeling.
I opted to take her off life support. I had a vision that came to me. I went home one early morning and I went to lay on my bed to go to sleep. It was between the 1, 2 o'clock hour a.m. And as soon as I did that, I noticed right away that the room lit up. And there was a myriad of ancestors and the divine from the unseen entering into my room. And they all spoke and said the same thing. And they spoke with one accord. And they basically said, we know that you believe that she's going to be healed. She's going to make it. And we want you to know that she is going to leave. Now that she's here and she's experiencing her mom, it's really challenging for her to leave at this point, but she knows she has to go. And so we need you to be her voice. And so they began to just talk to me and communicate with me and let me know that it was okay to let go.
There's no time in any of this, and any of us NDEers will say that to you. We just, time and space and language just lose their understanding from this point forward, but I do my best. I don't know how long I was out of the SUV, seeming to hover, watching the body. I just recognized that at some point it stopped moving. It didn't look like it was uncomfortable anymore. And then the cracking and the popping sensations and that vibration pull became really intense again. And all of a sudden I felt this pressure. And again, like this upward pulling, if you will, and I was no longer there. Not a body, just an energy that just seemed to have catapulted to this void of darkness.
I was unaware of my own injuries. I knew I was in pain. I knew I was struggling to breathe, but what I didn't realize is both of my legs had been crushed. My left leg was eventually amputated above the knee. You know, my rib cage had been damaged. My lungs were collapsing. My back had been damaged. 2 of the vertebrae had been cracked. Thankfully, it didn't damage the spinal column, so I still have movement. And then my shoulder, my arm had almost been torn out. The whole rotator cuff and everything was torn out. And then the seatbelt had cut through me and ruptured all my insides. I was a mess.
Wow.
I wasn't aware of that. All I knew is my son's crying. I've got to get to him. And I couldn't get to him.
My brain was going insane, and everything was. So I exhaustedly just called out from the deepest part of me, it's in your hands. I can't do this anymore. And I didn't know who I was calling out to necessarily. And instantly everything went silent and quiet and peaceful and pain-free. And then I heard the voice, "Are you ready?" And I didn't hesitate to say yes. And when I did, that's when I felt like chest crushing pounds in my chest. And that's when I popped out of my body and ended up straight in this blackness. And it was amazing. It's like, it was either faster than the speed of light. Maybe that's why we consider it black, but it was everything, every possibility of warm, fuzzy, electricity, home. And then I go into this beautiful tunnel that is blue and white and filled with binary code.
I saw my body turn like a bruise like purple, and then a lifeless blue, and then like a brown / corpse like white, and my body was turning all these colors. And then as soon as I saw the heartbeat, that completely flat line from that second story of the proverbial house, with the glass panel separating us, I was just shuttled into this life review. And I mean, for those watching who might not know what a life review is, it's like this 360 degree, or at least mine was, this 360 degree panoramic screen. It's very hard to describe, but it's like a movie of your life is playing. But what I don't know how other people's life reviews go, but for my life review was, it was not just, I wasn't just watching this movie of my life, I was also in it. And I was also kind of experiencing this life review from other people's perspectives as well.
I've never had something so real happen to me, and when I came back into my body, once the being or the angel, whatever you want to call it, said, become the purpose, I had that understanding. Immediately, I had this white light hit me, and the white light penetrated me. Like it became me, essentially. And in that light, there was information that I was meant to unlock. And the only way I could unlock that was through meditation and through, the opportunity to get my mind clear about my life. And it literally, it changed my whole life. That one experience, it wasn't just a spiritual shift. It was an entirety of my taste, what I want in life, how I feel about life. It's everything about me has changed.
My body was on the ground, not responding to anyone who was calling me in the playground that day, but there was endless cherubs that were floating right in front of me. And I can't tell you how beautiful they looked. And literally they were right in front of me. And it's like we have this physical reality, but if you just tune up the dial just a little bit, we have all of these angels just all over and around us. And so that's really what I saw. And the cherubs that I saw didn't seem to really have a separate identity from one another. They didn't seem to have a sense of self. All they were there was just to really send healing, to send love, and that was it, without asking for anything possible in return. So it was remarkable to see what they embodied, and to me, that was something that always lasts with me. Is when I think of God, what do I think of? I think of the eternal giver of life without ever asking for anything in return.
The lessons I got from that journey, I would have received, in many different ways, even if I didn't come back to this world. And they were very kind of affirming and reassuring evidence. In fact, that's what many people who don't understand the medical details of my case kind of miss, is the fact that Bruce Grayson and others did write a case report on my medical records. And that was published in the Journal of Nervous and Mental Disease in September 2018. And people with a medical background who read that case report will realize they're just making the case that my brain was far too damaged to have any kind of dream or hallucination, much less this extraordinary experience that I did have. And so it demands a much richer explanation. And not only that, but as is pointed out by the peer review editors of that journal, they challenged the authors of the case report. How do you explain this miraculous recovery? And the author said it's because he had a near-death experience. That's what allowed for this profound, inexplicable, unprecedented recovery from an overwhelming case of bacterial meningoencephalitis.
Welcome to the Near-Death Network. My name is Mark Lewis, longtime sportscaster, lifelong metaphysician, always fascinated with all topics in metaphysics, including the near-death experience, which we focus on here on the Near-Death Network. We talk to experiencers about what they went through and the significance of their experiences. We talk to academics and clinicians. We combine all of those interviews to kind of reset our definition of what death is, that it's not finite, it's infinite, it's an extension of consciousness. So join us here on the Near-Death Network on YouTube. My name is Mark Lewis. I appreciate you stopping by, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and leave us your comments.